On her wedding day, Megan Taylor stood at the edge of the aisle, her heart racing with excitement. The venue was breathtaking, draped in white and gold, the air filled with the soft hum of guests chatting in anticipation. But as she prepared to take her first step toward the love of her life, something unexpected happened. Her golden retriever, Max, whom she had raised since he was a puppy, suddenly blocked her path. His big brown eyes looked up at her with an intensity she hadn't seen before. "Max, move," she whispered, trying to gently push him aside. But Max didn't budge. Instead, he sat firmly in front of her, his tail still, his gaze fixed on her. Confused, Megan glanced around, wondering if something was wrong. "Come on, Max," she urged again, her voice trembling. But the dog just sat there, unmoving, as if guarding her from something unseen. The guests noticed the odd standoff, some giggling, thinking it was part of the ceremony, but others, like Megan's brother Ryan, began to look concerned. "Megan, what's going on?" Ryan asked, walking over with a puzzled expression. She shook her head, unsure herself. This wasn't like Max. He had always been a playful dog, known for his love of people and his loyalty to her. But today, on the most important day of her life, something felt different. She gently reached out to pet him, thinking maybe he was just nervous, but he flinched away. His behavior wasn't just odd. It was almost as if he was trying to communicate something. "Max, what's wrong?" she asked again, her heart sinking as she realized he wasn't letting her move forward. At that moment, an older woman, a family friend, came over, noticing the commotion. "Is everything okay?" she asked. "Max won't let me go," Megan explained, her voice filled with concern. The woman leaned down to Max, speaking softly, trying to coax him to move, but the dog stayed still, his eyes still locked on Megan. "You know," the woman said, "dogs have an amazing sense of things we don't understand. Maybe he's trying to tell you something." Megan frowned. What could Max possibly be trying to tell her today? But the moment the woman finished speaking, Megan's eyes widened in realization. She glanced down at Max's collar and noticed a small, hidden tag that she hadn't seen before. It was scratched, as if it had been recently added. With shaking hands, she pulled it off, her curiosity piqued. The moment the tag came loose, the truth hit her like a ton of bricks. The tag didn't just have Max's name on it. It had the name of her late mother, the one person who had passed away when Megan was just a child. The truth was heartbreaking. Max had been her mother's dog first. He had been with her in the final moments of her life, and somehow, he had carried that memory with him. Max had blocked her path not out of stubbornness, but because he had known her mother was still with her in spirit, protecting her even on this most important day. Megan's heart swelled with emotion. She bent down, hugging Max tightly, as tears welled up in her eyes. She had always known Max was special, but this was beyond anything she could have ever imagined. Max had been a silent guardian, a witness to moments that she could never have known. In that moment, Megan realized that love, even after loss, never truly fades away. It only changes form, sometimes in ways we could never expect. As Megan stood there, holding Max, the weight of the moment sank in. Her mother's name on the tag sent a shockwave through her heart. She had no idea that Max, her loyal companion, had carried this piece of her past for all these years. She looked down at the dog, his big brown eyes filled with an understanding that seemed beyond his years. For a moment, Megan was speechless. Ryan, her brother, stood by her side, his face a mixture of confusion and concern. He had been watching the exchange between Megan and Max with increasing curiosity. "Megan, are you okay?" Ryan asked softly, stepping closer. Megan nodded slowly, her eyes still fixed on the collar. It's Mom's. It's her name." She could barely get the words out as the realization hit her. Ryan's eyes widened in disbelief. "What do you mean? What's going on with Max?" Megan bent down and let the dog rest his head on her lap. "Max, he was my mom's dog before he was mine. He was with her when she passed away. And I didn't know. I had no idea he kept her memory with him like this." Ryan's voice softened as he tried to process the moment. "But why today, of all days?" Megan shook her head. "I don't know. Maybe he knew. Maybe he didn't want me to walk down that aisle without remembering her. Maybe he wanted me to know that she's here with me today." As Max lay there, his tail gently wagging, Megan could feel the comfort of his presence. It was as if, in that moment, her mother was with her in spirit, through Max. She could almost hear her mother's voice, as if she was whispering to her, telling her that everything would be okay. The ceremony continued, and as Megan walked down the aisle with Max by her side, she felt an overwhelming sense of peace. The dog's presence had grounded her, calming her nerves. It was as if Max was her protector, not just from the world outside, but from the emotions she had been holding in for so long. The guests watched in awe as Megan and Max entered the venue together. It wasn't just a wedding entrance, it was a reunion of sorts. A reunion between Megan and her past, between the woman she had become and the girl who had lost her mother too soon. As the vows were exchanged, Megan couldn't help but feel grateful for the unexpected twist in her day. The dog that had always been by her side had just reminded her of the love she had lost but could still feel. The wedding was more than just a celebration of love between Megan and her soon-to-be husband. It was also a celebration of memories, of family, and of the bond that can never truly be broken, no matter how much time passes. As the day went on, Megan realized that life had a funny way of reminding us of what truly matters. In the whirlwind of wedding preparations and excitement, it was Max's quiet gesture that had anchored her, and for that, she would be forever grateful. Later that night, as Megan sat alone with Max on the porch, watching the stars twinkle in the sky, she whispered, "Thank you for bringing her back to me, Max." The dog turned to look at her, his eyes full of understanding, and Megan could have sworn she saw her mother's love reflected in them. It was then that she knew, no matter what life threw her way, she would never be alone. As the night went on, Megan found herself reflecting on the whirlwind of emotions she had experienced. The wedding had been everything she had imagined and more. But it wasn't just the vows that touched her. It was the quiet presence of Max, her loyal companion, who had shown her something far deeper than just love. She had always known Max was special, but today, he had become something more, her anchor. The following morning, after the celebration had ended and the house was quiet, Megan sat on the porch with Max once again. The sun had just risen, casting a soft golden glow across the backyard. It was a peaceful moment, one that Megan had longed for after months of planning and excitement. She had the time now to truly reflect on everything that had happened. Max, as always, lay by her side, his head resting on his paws, his eyes gently closing as he dozed in the warmth of the morning sun. Megan reached down to pet him, her fingers brushing through his soft golden fur. "You've always been there for me, haven't you?" she whispered softly. Max lifted his head slightly, his brown eyes meeting hers with a calm understanding. There was no need for words. Megan knew that he understood. The bond they shared had always been unspoken, a quiet connection that transcended words. She remembered when she first brought Max home as a puppy, how small he was and how quickly he had become part of her family. Her mother had loved him too, always commenting on how he seemed to have a sixth sense about things. Megan had never truly understood what her mother meant by that until today. The way Max had blocked her path at the wedding, the way he had prevented her from walking down the aisle. It wasn't just a strange coincidence. Max had been trying to protect her. He had been trying to remind her of something she had almost forgotten in the chaos of planning her wedding. That family, love, and memory are what truly matter. She remembered a conversation she had had with her mother years ago, one that now seemed to echo in her mind. "Max will always be here for you," her mother had said. "Even when I'm not around, he'll take care of you." At the time, Megan had brushed it off as just another one of her mother's endearing, yet somewhat exaggerated, statements. But now, as she sat with Max on the porch, she realized just how true those words were. Max had been there for her through every high and low, through every joy and sorrow. He had been her constant, her protector, even when she didn't realize it. As the days passed, Megan found herself feeling a sense of peace that she hadn't felt before. She felt more connected to her mother, more aware of the love and memories that had been passed down to her. Max's presence, now more than ever, felt like a bridge between the past and the present. He was her reminder that the people we love never truly leave us. They live on in the hearts of those who remember them. One evening, as the sun set and the sky turned a brilliant shade of pink, Megan took a walk with Max around the yard. The air was cool, and the world felt still, as if everything had slowed down just for a moment. Megan paused and looked up at the sky, feeling a sense of gratitude wash over her. "Thank you, Max," she said quietly, her voice barely more than a whisper. Max stopped beside her, as if understanding the weight of her words. He looked up at her with his loyal eyes, and for a moment, Megan could have sworn she saw a flicker of recognition in them, an understanding that transcended time and space. In that moment, she knew that no matter what the future held, she would never be alone. She had Max, and through him, she had the love of her mother, forever with her. She smiled softly, her heart full. "Thank you for bringing her back to me, Max. I love you." Max nuzzled her gently, his tail wagging as he leaned against her. It was as if he was telling her that he would always be there, just as her mother had promised. As they continued their walk, the world around them seemed to glow a little brighter. Megan felt the warmth of the sun on her skin, the love of her family in her heart, and the comforting presence of Max by her side. And in that moment, everything felt exactly as it should be. As the weeks passed, Megan's life began to settle into a new rhythm. She and her husband, James, were adjusting to married life, and the quiet moments with Max became even more precious. Max had always been a constant presence in her life, but now, with the weight of the wedding behind her, Megan found herself reflecting more on the things that truly mattered. One evening, as she sat on the porch with Max by her side, she watched the sun dip below the horizon, casting a warm glow across the backyard. The world around her was peaceful, the chirping of crickets the only sound filling the air. Max lay beside her, his head resting on her lap, as if he knew that this was a moment for quiet reflection. Megan stroked his fur gently, the familiar comfort of his presence bringing a sense of calm that she hadn't realized she needed. It had been a few weeks since the wedding, and she had started to unpack the memories from that day. The revelation about Max, the way he had blocked her path and revealed the hidden message from her mother, had stayed with her. It wasn't just a strange coincidence. Max had truly been her mother's protector, and now he was hers. The connection between them had always been strong, but now it felt as though a bridge had been built between her past and her present, a connection to the love she had lost but never truly forgotten. As Megan reflected on the past, she felt a deep sense of gratitude. She had been given a gift that most people would never understand. Max had brought her closer to her mother, to the love that had shaped her, and to the memories that had faded with time. She realized that love didn't end with death. It simply transformed, living on in the hearts of those who remembered. Megan looked down at Max, his soft eyes meeting hers with an understanding that words could never capture. It was as if he knew that she was beginning to truly appreciate the depth of their bond. Max had always been more than just a dog to her. He had been her companion, her confidant, and now, in this moment, he was the guardian of her heart. "I've never thanked you enough, Max," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Max raised his head slightly, as if to acknowledge her words, his tail giving a small wag. Megan smiled through the tears that threatened to spill. It wasn't just gratitude that filled her heart, it was love. The kind of love that had been tested through time, through loss, and through the quiet, everyday moments that made life meaningful. As the days grew cooler and the seasons began to change, Megan found herself holding on to the lessons Max had taught her. It wasn't just about the big moments, the weddings, the celebrations, the milestones. It was about the quiet moments, the small gestures of love, and the understanding that even in the absence of the ones we love, their presence can still be felt. Max had shown her that, in the most unexpected of ways. One rainy afternoon, as Megan and James sat in the living room, sipping coffee and chatting about their day, Max came trotting in with something in his mouth. Megan raised an eyebrow as the dog dropped it at her feet. It was a small, weathered photograph, the edges frayed from years of wear. She picked it up, recognizing the image immediately. It was an old photo of her mother, smiling with Max as a puppy, both of them sharing a moment that Megan had long forgotten. She stared at the picture for a moment, a wave of emotion crashing over her. Max had brought this photo to her. He had found it, perhaps buried in the back of a drawer or under a pile of old things, and he had brought it to her, as if to remind her of the love that still surrounded her. "Thank you, Max," she whispered, her voice full of warmth and affection. In that moment, Megan realized that the bond between them was more than just the memories of her mother. It was the connection to a love that never truly fades. As the years passed, Megan would look back on this moment, this quiet afternoon, and know that Max had been more than just a pet. He had been a bridge between her past and her future, a reminder that the love we give and receive is never truly lost, but continues to live on in the hearts of those who remember. Months passed, and life began to flow naturally for Megan and James. Their home was filled with the kind of warmth only family could provide, and Max, ever the faithful companion, was by their side every step of the way. Though the early days of married life were filled with new experiences and adjustments, Megan never stopped feeling the deep connection she shared with her past, with her mother, and with the silent guardian that had been by her side all these years. It was a quiet evening, one of those rare moments when everything seemed still, and Megan sat on the porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. Max lay next to her, his head resting on her lap as usual. Megan smiled softly, running her fingers through his fur. She had come to cherish these peaceful moments, knowing how fleeting they could be. As she looked at Max, she thought about how far they had come. Max had been there for her through everything, her childhood, her mother's passing, and now this new chapter with James. It was as if the dog had witnessed it all, from the happiest to the most sorrowful of times. Yet, through it all, Max had remained constant. Megan often found herself lost in thought, thinking of the many ways Max had comforted her over the years. He was more than just a pet. He was family. He had been a part of every major moment in her life, always quietly present, his loyalty never wavering. She leaned back in the chair, reflecting on the day when she had first discovered that Max had been her mother's dog before he became hers. That moment had changed everything. It had opened a door to the past that Megan had thought was closed forever. It had reminded her that love, even when it seems lost, never truly fades. Just then, James stepped onto the porch, carrying a tray with 2 cups of hot tea. He smiled at Megan, setting the tray down on the small table between them. "I thought you might need this," he said, sitting down beside her. Megan looked at him, her heart swelling with gratitude. "Thank you, James. I think we both needed this," she replied softly. As they sipped their tea in comfortable silence, Megan couldn't help but feel that the past and present had somehow merged into one. The lessons her mother had taught her, the love Max had carried with him, and the life she was now building with James, they were all part of the same beautiful tapestry. "You know," Megan said after a long pause, "sometimes I think Max knows things before we do, like he's been carrying all the memories for us." James chuckled softly. "He's definitely special. I don't think I've ever met a dog like him." Megan nodded, her eyes falling on Max, who was now lying on the ground, his eyes closed in peaceful sleep. "He's been through so much with me," she continued. "It's like he's the keeper of all those memories." James reached out, taking her hand in his. "I'm just glad he's here with us now. You've got a good friend by your side." Megan smiled, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't realized she was missing. She had found love in unexpected places, first in Max, then in James, and now, in this quiet moment, she felt complete. Time seemed to slow as they sat there, watching the sun dip lower and lower in the sky, casting its golden light across the world. It was as if the universe had slowed down just for them, giving them this precious time to reflect, to appreciate, and to simply be. In that stillness, Megan realized that life was not just about the big moments. It was about the quiet, everyday occurrences that, when woven together, created something truly beautiful. She looked at Max, sleeping peacefully beside her, and knew that no matter what the future held, she would always have him by her side, just as her mother had once promised. Max was more than a dog. He was a bridge between the past and the present, a reminder that love, in its many forms, never truly fades. As the years went by, life settled into a peaceful routine for Megan and James. Their home was full of laughter, love, and the constant presence of Max, whose devotion to Megan remained unwavering. Even as the world around them changed, Max remained a constant, a reminder of the bonds that held them all together. One sunny afternoon, Megan was out in the garden, planting new flowers for the upcoming spring. She had always loved gardening. It was a hobby her mother had passed down to her, a way to connect with the earth and reflect on the beauty of life. Max, as always, was by her side, his tail wagging as he watched her carefully arrange the flowers in neat rows. As she worked, her mind drifted back to the day of her wedding and the revelation about Max's past. It felt like a lifetime ago, yet the memory was still so vivid, as if it had only just happened. Max had always been more than just a dog to her. But now, after learning about his connection to her mother, she saw him in a new light. He wasn't just a pet. He was a bridge to her past, a living connection to the love she had lost but could still feel. Megan's thoughts were interrupted by the sound of James calling her from the house. "Megan, can you come inside for a moment?" he asked, his voice carrying through the open window. Megan stood up from the garden, wiping her hands on her apron, and walked inside to find James holding a small box in his hands. "What's this?" she asked, her curiosity piqued. James smiled softly, his eyes warm as he handed her the box. "It's something I found while cleaning out the attic. I thought you might want to see it." Megan took the box, feeling the weight of it in her hands. It was small, wrapped in brown paper, and tied with a string. She carefully unwrapped it, revealing an old, faded photograph inside. It was a picture of her mother, sitting in the garden with Max as a puppy, both of them smiling at the camera. Megan's heart skipped a beat. She had never seen this photo before. "Where did you find this?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "It was in one of the old boxes in the attic," James explained. "I thought it might be something important." Megan sat down, the photograph still in her hands. The sight of her mother, so young and full of life, with Max by her side, brought a flood of emotions. It was as if her mother had never truly left, her presence still lingering in the world through this photo, through Max. She felt a lump form in her throat as she looked at the image, realizing how much she missed her mother. Max, sensing the shift in her emotions, walked over and sat beside her, his head resting gently on her lap. Megan reached down to stroke his fur, grateful for the comfort he always seemed to offer. "You were with her, weren't you?" Megan whispered to Max. "You were her protector, just like you've been mine." Max looked up at her, his eyes filled with understanding, as if he knew exactly what she was feeling. Megan smiled through her tears, feeling a deep sense of peace. In that moment, she realized that the love her mother had given her had never truly disappeared. It had simply transformed, living on in Max, in the memories, and in the love that would continue to shape her life. As she sat there with Max, holding the photograph of her mother, Megan knew that she was exactly where she was meant to be. She had her husband, her family, and Max, her faithful companion, who had been there through it all. Life had a way of surprising her, of reminding her that love and connection were always present, even when they seemed distant. Megan stood up, holding the photograph, and walking over to the window. She looked out at the garden, at the flowers she had planted with her mother's spirit in mind, and felt a sense of gratitude wash over her. Max had shown her that love was eternal, that it never truly faded away. It simply changed forms, living on in the hearts of those who remembered. As the sun began to set, casting a soft glow over the garden, Megan knew that, no matter what the future held, she would never be alone. She had Max, and through him, she had her mother's love with her always. As the seasons changed, so did the rhythms of Megan's life. The flowers she had planted in the spring bloomed vibrantly, adding color to the yard, and the peacefulness that had settled in their home continued to grow. With every passing day, she felt more deeply connected to the past, to her mother, and to the quiet yet unbreakable bond she shared with Max. It was the small things that kept her grounded. The way Max would nudge her hand when he wanted attention, the way he would rest his head on her lap, as if knowing exactly when she needed comfort. One evening, as Megan sat on the porch watching the sunset, she found herself reflecting on how much had changed over the years. She was no longer the same person she had been when she first brought Max home. Back then, she was a young woman unsure of the future, seeking solace in the companionship of a dog. Now, she was a wife, a woman who had learned that love is not always about grand gestures, but about the quiet moments that fill the spaces between. Max had been by her side through every transition, every milestone, every emotional high and low. His presence had been a constant, a reminder that no matter how much the world around her shifted, some things, some relationships, would always remain steady. As she gazed at the horizon, Megan thought back to the early days of her marriage. At first, there had been so much to navigate, the excitement of a new life together, the shared dreams, the adjustments that came with combining two lives into one. But in all of that, there was Max, a steady presence in their home, offering a sense of comfort and familiarity. James had come to understand just how important Max was to Megan. He had seen the bond they shared, and he respected it. The dog was not just a pet. He was family, a part of the story Megan had lived and would continue to live. One evening, after a long day of work, James returned home to find Megan sitting on the porch with Max by her side. He smiled as he approached, knowing exactly what to expect. "How's my two favorite people doing?" he asked, kneeling down to give Max a quick pet before sitting beside Megan. Megan smiled softly, leaning into him as he wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "We're good," she replied, her voice calm, almost meditative. "Just thinking about how far we've come." "I know," James said, his voice filled with warmth. "It's crazy how much has changed. But Max has been here through it all. He's been your constant." Megan nodded, feeling the weight of his words. She had never truly realized just how much Max had been a part of everything until now. It wasn't just that he had been with her during the hardest times. It was that he had been with her during all the times in between. The quiet mornings when she felt alone, the evenings when she needed someone to share her thoughts with, and the nights when she lay awake, unsure of what the future would bring. Max had always been there, never asking for anything in return, simply offering his presence, his loyalty, and his love. Megan looked down at him, her heart swelling with gratitude. "You've been here for me," she whispered to Max. "I don't even know how I could ever thank you." Max raised his head, his eyes meeting hers, and for a moment, it felt as though he understood everything. He nuzzled her gently, as if reassuring her that there was no need for thanks. Megan smiled, tears welling up in her eyes. She had always known that Max was special, but now, in this moment, she realized just how deep their connection went. He wasn't just a dog. He was a reminder of everything that mattered. He was the love of her past, the comfort of her present, and the symbol of the love that would continue to guide her in the future. As the night drew on, Megan felt a sense of peace settle over her. She didn't have all the answers, and she didn't know exactly what the future held, but she knew one thing for sure: she would never be alone. With Max by her side, she had everything she needed: the love of a dog, the love of her husband, and the love of a mother who would always live on in her heart. It was enough, more than enough. As the years continued to pass, life for Megan, James, and Max grew even more intertwined. Their home was filled with memories, each day adding a new layer to the life they were building together. The love that Megan felt for James, the companionship with Max, and the quiet presence of her mother in the background made everything feel whole. One afternoon, Megan found herself walking through the neighborhood park with Max, enjoying the fresh air and the warmth of the sun on her skin. It had become a routine, taking Max out for long walks, talking to him about everything and nothing. As they strolled, Megan couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude for the simple things. Max trotted happily beside her, his tail wagging as he sniffed the ground, his eyes alert but calm. Megan looked down at him, a small smile playing at the corner of her lips. "You know, Max," she said softly, her voice full of warmth, "I don't know what I'd do without you. You've been with me through it all." Max looked up at her, his eyes filled with an understanding that only he could offer. In that moment, Megan realized just how much he had been a part of her life, through every change, every challenge, and every moment of joy. As they walked through the park, Megan noticed a family sitting on a bench, watching their children play nearby. The sight of the young family reminded her of her own childhood, of the moments spent with her mother, of the memories that were now carried in her heart. She glanced down at Max again, feeling the warmth of his presence and the love that he seemed to radiate. It was as if, in his own way, Max was helping her carry the memories of the people she had lost. She thought back to the day she had discovered Max's connection to her mother. It felt like a lifetime ago, yet the revelation was still so fresh in her mind. The love her mother had for Max had never truly left. It had simply been passed on to Megan, in a way that only Max could have understood. As they continued their walk, Megan's thoughts turned to the future. She didn't know what the years ahead would bring, but she felt a deep sense of peace. She had James, her loving husband, who had been by her side through everything. She had Max, her loyal companion, who had always been there for her, offering comfort and companionship when she needed it most. And she had the love of her mother, a love that had never truly faded, but had been carried on through the years. Megan took a deep breath, letting the cool air fill her lungs. For the first time in a long while, she felt truly content. The struggles and heartaches of the past had shaped her, but they no longer defined her. She was now living in the present, surrounded by the people and animals she loved, and she was ready for whatever came next. As they neared the end of their walk, Max stopped and looked up at her, his tail wagging happily. Megan laughed softly, bending down to give him a gentle pat on the head. "You're always so full of surprises," she said, smiling as Max leaned into her touch. It was moments like this, these quiet, everyday moments, that Megan realized truly mattered. The big events, the milestones, those were important, yes, but it was the little things that made life so meaningful. The bond between her and Max, the love shared between her and James, and the memories of her mother. All of it formed the foundation of the life she was living now. And in that moment, Megan knew that no matter what came next, she had everything she needed. She had love, she had family, and she had Max, the constant in her life that would always be there, by her side, reminding her of the beauty in every small moment. Years continued to pass, and with each passing day, Megan felt more connected to the life she had built. She and James had grown together, learning the quiet yet powerful rhythm of a life filled with love and the gentle presence of their dog, Max. Their home, once a place of uncertainty and transitions, had become a sanctuary, a place where every corner held a memory, and every day felt like a new chapter in their shared story. Max, who had always been more than just a pet, had become even more integral to their lives. He was not just a dog. He was a constant reminder of love, loyalty, and the strength that came from enduring life's most difficult moments. As Megan looked back on her journey with Max, she marveled at how far they had come. She had been a young woman searching for solace when she first brought him home. And now, years later, Max had been with her through every major milestone. Her wedding, her struggles, her joys, and everything in between. There were days when Megan still felt her mother's absence, when the quiet moments brought her memories of the woman who had shaped her. But in those moments, Max was there, reminding her that love never truly leaves. It only changes form. One afternoon, as the sun began to set, Megan found herself on the porch with Max once again, his head resting gently in her lap. The world around her seemed to slow down, the rustling of the leaves and the chirping of the birds the only sounds filling the air. She stroked Max's fur, a sense of calm washing over her. Life had settled into a beautiful, quiet rhythm, and she realized just how much she had been gifted. As she sat there, Megan thought about how far she had come in life, not just in the physical journey, but in the emotional one. The lessons Max had taught her, the love she had found in unexpected places, and the strength she had discovered within herself were all pieces of the woman she had become.